You're interested in wealth, you're interested in wealth generation, but how much do you need and when do you need it by? My name is Ritchie Clapson, I'm a chartered structural engineer and I've been involved in the property industry now over 40 years. And in this episode, I'm going to be talking about understanding wealth generation in property development and understanding how much wealth generation you need. Because if you've got too much, that's not a bad thing, but too little, that's no good. Okay, let's get into this. Let's talk about wealth generation. So what I'm going to suggest for this episode, if you're out listening to this, running or jogging or in the car, play this back. Play this back when you can sit down with a pen and paper. Because I want you to grab a pen and paper. I want you to write a few things down. I want you to leave this episode understanding the journey you need to go on. Because the problem is, we don't always understand that journey. So my first question to you, where are you right now? Okay. What is your income? What are you earning? So write that down on a piece of paper, how much you're earning. Now I did a talk like this recently, and actually the average number that went into the chat box on an online talk that I did was between 50 and 100,000 pounds. That's what most people are earning. I don't know if you're in that bracket or not, but 50 to 100. So where are you right now? Maybe it's 50 to 100,000 pounds. And maybe that's not enough. I suspect it's not. That's why you're listening to this. And it's either not enough or you want more. So maybe it's enough to live off, but you want more. So my next question to you is, what do you want right now? So this isn't future, this is right now. So if you're living off of 50 to 100,000 pounds, and maybe that's not enough, maybe you are going on holiday, but it's not the holiday you want. Maybe you have got a car, but it's not the car you want. Maybe you've got a nice house, but you want a bigger one. I don't know, whatever it is you want. What do you want right now? What's that number right now? Now, I can tell you again, as a comparison, off of the presentation I've done recently, it went from 100 to 150. So most people said they wanted 100 to 150. I sort of put it down to about 120, about £10,000 a month. So most people thought, I want about £10,000 a month. Maybe they're on 6,000 or 7,000 a month, something like that, and they wanted this £10,000 a month. And that is right now. So what do you want to live off? So that money is all going to go. Every year you're going to spend it and you're going to live your lifestyle. And maybe it's flashy, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just enough for some school fees. Maybe it's enough just to look after your elderly parents or whatever it is. But you know your number and hopefully you have written that down. The next thing I'm going to ask you, what is that long-term number? I'm now going to force you to think about retirement. What is the number you want when you retire? Because all the money that you're going to get, the 50 to 100 you've got, 100 to 150 we're going to try and get you, you're going to spend. All that's going to be spent. So what are you going to do for your retirement? So how much do you want in retirement? Is it the same, £10,000? Have a think. Now I can tell you again from the presentation the other week, most people said they wanted to retain that £10,000 income. A few people said they'd be happier with 5 because the mortgage and everything had been gone. But I pointed out then, I said, do you know how much does a care home cost? At least £1,000 a week. In London, probably double that, probably £2,000 a week. So if it's you and your partner, well, who's going to give them the care home? Maybe one of you are going to live in a caravan. Have a think about that. Maybe you need £2,000 a week, even outside London. So that's £8,000 a month just to live in your care home. But how much do you need? Because retirement is a long period. It's just not that bit where you're elderly and infirm, but you've got to think about that as well. I'm going to force you to think about that. But think about the rest of this retirement, that time when you've got nothing to do. Maybe the kids are grown up, they've left, you've got no other responsibilities. You're back as a nice couple again, if you are indeed in a couple. Or you're just free as an individual from no work ties or no business ties. You can do what you want, you can travel, you can spend what you want. How much do you want to live that lifestyle? And let's say it is £10,000. £10,000 will do it? Okay. There's a thing called the rule of 375. A lot of pension advisors use it. Look it up, have a guide, have a think about it, read it, Google it. Now, the rule of 375 says take what you want a month and multiply it by 375. 10,000 multiplied by 375, do that, write it down, is 3.75 million. 3.75 million. That's what is suggested you need as a pot to fulfill your pension. And it's a bit of a rule of thumb. It's probably based on a mix of investments, which maybe you've already done, but don't forget the 100 to 150, you spent all that, we just worked that out. So if you are trying to build a portfolio, you need other money on top of that to build your portfolio. Do you get it? You do, don't you? Okay. So you need to earn some other lumps of cash on top of the 100 to 150. We're trying to get a scale of this thing. And we need to find a pension pot of 3.75 million if you want 10,000. And that's based on living for about 35 years after you retire, spending a bit more before and a little bit less later. Where are you going to get 3.75 million from? It might be you invested in property, Bitcoin, whatever. Doesn't matter. But that's the sort of scale of number you need. The next thing I'm going to ask you, so write that down. We've got our starting point, we've got what you'd like, and we've got our pension requirement, and it's going to give you a big lump sum. Next thing I'm going to ask you, how many years is that away from where you are now? Write that down. Is it a year? Is it 5 years? As someone said on this presentation, they went, yesterday, I'm already late. But most people probably said 10 years. On average, I have people saying 10 years. Most people are here perhaps looking at this sort of journey, maybe in their 40s, and they're thinking, I want 10 years, and then I want to retire. Because maybe I need to retire. Maybe health gets in the way. Someone said, I'm not going to retire. I said, yeah, but you might be forced to. So we have to cover that off. We have to cover that off. So if in 10 years you want to retire, regardless of what you earn now, and you need 3.75 million, because you need £10,000 a month, you need to, simple maths, earn £375,000 or make £375,000 a year for every year for the next 10 years to get that pot. Make sense? So how are you going to do that then? Interesting, isn't it? That is your business plan right there. That is what you've got to do. And that's why I want you to put this down on a piece of paper and think about it. Stick it on the fridge. Share it with your partner. Because one thing I'm going to tell you is if you're on a journey now that's getting nowhere near that, you need to think about changing that journey. I did a similar talk to this once. I was on stage. I was on stage in Milton Keynes, and I needed to get to Aberystwyth in Wales that evening. And I needed to be in Aberystwyth for 8 o'clock for dinner with some friends. And I said to everyone in Milton Keynes, if I walked, would I get there? And they went, man, you're crazy, man. Of course you wouldn't. I said, what if I cycled? They said, looking at you, probably not. Which wasn't very pleasant, but that's what they said. I said, what about driving? They said, yeah, you'll probably do it driving. It's about a 4 or 5 hour trip. So what I'd worked out was the appropriate vehicle to get me to my end destination within the time I had. I was leaving Milton Keynes at 2 o'clock. I had 6 hours to get across, get changed to Aberystwyth, and so many miles. I worked out my vehicle of transport, which would get me there, would be a car. So what I'm talking about here, what's your vehicle of transport? What is going to get you your 3.75 million on top of the 100, 150 that you might need now to give you your pension plan of £10,000 a month? Because if you've got half a dozen buy-to-lets earning £300 a month, it's not going to do it. You've got to be thinking about building that portfolio quicker and bigger. So how are you going to do that? Okay, so let's assume you want to be in property and you've got to do that. We've already just talked about your buy-to-lets. Each buy-to-let on average in this country earns about £300 a month. It's not bad, that's okay, some a little bit more. Of course, by the time the mortgage is paid off, maybe that doubles. So maybe once you've got a few of them, that's good. But what do most people run out of when they're trying to build a portfolio right now at the age you're at? They run out of money. You can't build that portfolio quick enough. You can't build it fast enough. And what are the stories I hear so many times? Broken boiler. Broken boiler wipes out a year's profit. It's just gone. What about a void? A few voids in it. That wipes out your profit. What about a difficult tenant that doesn't pay and because of legislation you can't get them out? Wipes out that profit. HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. Well, do you know they're better? But actually they got more noise. They got more stuff to run them. What about serviced apartments? I mean, even more noise. You know, you've got tenants in and out all the time. People could have parties. They could trash the place. Yeah, they can earn some good money. But again, building that portfolio, what do people run out of? Money. So yes, it's not a bad model, but we're talking about substantial lumps of money that you need to get and you need to generate. So I'm not saying don't build a portfolio, but I want you to find a way of building a portfolio faster. because the average portfolio size of buy-to-lets in this country from the accidental landlord is 1.5 properties. It's not going to get you anywhere, is it? What about 10 properties? It's only £6,000 a month. You need more than that. How are we even going to get the 10? How are we going to find the deposits? £50,000 deposit, probably minimum. Have you got £500,000 for deposits? Probably not. That's why you run out of money. So what we need, in the same way that there's no way I could have walked from Milton Keynes to Aberystwyth, I had to find the right vehicle, and it was a car. What's the vehicle that's going to generate you 6-figure profits every year that you can get into right now? Maybe if you're an existing landlord, maybe if you own HMOs or service departments, or maybe if you're just a business owner and you're brand new to property. What is property development? Small scale property development. Everything that we do here at Property CEO, everything we talk about on this channel, everything that we teach our students is to go out there and earn 6-figure sums. It's not going to happen within that first year, but starting today, let's assume you were literally starting today. If I said to you, you can make some money in the first 12 months, I'd be lying, because you can't. But in 2 years, you can. In 2 years from now, listening to this video, watching this episode, you could be in a position with a 6-figure sum, 1, 2, 3, £400,000 profit in your pocket. And then you could repeat that year on year on year. In fact, you could double up and do 2 projects a year if you really want to, if your number is bigger than 3.75 million, if it's bigger than £10,000 a month. And property development you can transition into. You're not going to run out of money because you need far less money to do property development than you do to build a portfolio. So what do many of my students do? They get going. They start. They make some lumps of cash. They get a bit of cash behind them. They suddenly get themselves in the position where they have the lifestyle they want, where they're earning not 50 to 100, but 100, 150. They draw some of that money. Imagine if you had 200,000 or 300,000 pounds in the bank, you could draw that, you could top that up. Then what do they do on their 3rd and 4th projects? They sell one, they keep one. They sell one, they keep one. They alternate. So they sell, get some lumps of cash, they keep, build their portfolio. Imagine if every year you were selling out a scheme, let's just be conservative, with 6 apartments, okay? 6 apartments every year. So what you do is you sell one, you take the money, let's say those apartments are worth £200,000 each, 1.2 million, 240,000. So 1 year you take 240, you keep it. The next year you keep your 6 apartments. You refinance and hold it, or split it. Sell 3, keep 3, sell 3, keep 3. But you can build your portfolio and build that lump of cash. Ultimately, property development as a vehicle can get you on that journey. It can get you that lump sum of cash. It can build that huge pension pot. Now, there are lots of ways that you can build this. We talk on this channel about permitted development rights, converting existing commercial buildings, earning those 6-figure sums. Check out some of the other episodes and you'll see how you can do that. Check out other testimonials. Go onto the Property CEO website. Look at what some existing students are doing. See if that resonates with you, because that is the sort of numbers that you can build. But I want to just evaluate this business model. I want to evaluate and understand it, because there's 10 reasons why I think you want to be a property developer and earn large lumps of cash. So, in order, number 1, rock solid product demand. You might want to write these down. Rock solid product demand. We're supposed to build 1.5 million homes in this country over the term of the government. That's 300,000 homes a year. We build less than half of that. So there's 150,000 customers that want to buy a home every year that can't. You build the home, you can sell it. That's not the same with HMOs, is it? There's saturation in certain areas. So number 1, rock solid product demand. Build houses, build flats in the right place, of course, people will buy them. Number 2, a lack of competition. Well, it relates back to number 1. If you build an HMO here and here and here, 3 in the same street by 3 different people, it's competition. And if you build a brand new one over here and someone's got an old one over here, you're probably going to pinch their clients. Competition is huge in those areas. The same for service departments, Airbnb, there's huge competition for that. You've always got to be better. You've always got to refurbish. You've always got to upgrade. You've got to get your marketing right. Competition, we've got a lack of housing. You build some houses here, here and here, you're going to sell them all. There's a distinct lack of competition. Number 3, managing cash flow is easier. And the reason I say that, You've probably all been out there. Maybe you've built an existing portfolio partly, you've got a buy to let, or even your own home. As soon as you get it, you've got to pay that mortgage, haven't you? Every single month. Particularly if it's a buy to let, you've got to get it in, you've got to refurbish it quickly, you've got to get on. Well, in very simple terms, without me explaining it anymore today, all of the interest and all the repayments are rolled up in development. There's no monthly payments. You don't pay it to the end. So cash flow is a lot easier. Number 4 is higher margins. I've already talked about a buy-to-let that can make you £300. You could put £50,000 into a 200,000 property, which is a 25% deposit, and earn £300 a month. And your boiler could go and it wipes out your profit. We're talking about 20% profit margins. We're talking about building 5 flats for 200,000 each, £1 million, making 20%. That's £200,000 profit. Even if the market drops by 10%, you're still making £100,000 profit. How does that even compare when for that type of investment, you might only need 12, 13, 14, 15,000 to put into it and make that work? The margins are so much higher, which means we've got a lot more capacity to soak up any problems. Multiple exits is our next one. If you've got an HMO, it's an HMO. If you've got a service department, it's a service department. If we're doing development, we can actually do all of those things. We can either just sell it as a simple residential property, we refinance and hold it as a buy-to-let, maybe turn it into an HMO, maybe a service department. But even if we just look at the either sell or rent it, what happens if the resale market comes down? The rental market goes up. So we've got 2 areas that we can cover off risk, multiple exits. Number 6, less legislation. What are the government doing to help you as a buy-to-let landlord, as an HMO landlord, as a service department landlord? Nothing. They're putting more legislation on you, and it's probably going to be piled on. It's probably going to get worse. What are they doing for developers? They're helping us. As I say, watch some other episodes on this channel. We talk about permitted development rights given to us by the government to help us as developers. They want to encourage us. They want to build homes. There's less legislation for property developers. In fact, there's a helping hand from the government, whereas anything else, there isn't. And less taxation, number 7, goes hand in hand with what we've talked about with legislation. The government are taxing us less. There's all sorts of taxes coming in all sorts of ways, and you can be very efficient in your property development. You can get out group holding companies, you can develop your individual projects and run that money in and around the group. You're going to pay far less tax than if you would be just actually exiting or doing simple buy-to-lets. It's a very tax efficient model. And then funding is available. There's certainly an appetite in 2025 for short-term funding. Short-term funding, I'm talking about 1 or 2 or 3 years. In fact, I was with a funder last year, and that funder said to me, he said the appetite is shifting for a lot of those funders out there. They're a little bit nervous in some places about the rental market and getting tied up too long. There's a real appetite for most of these funders in short-term lending. That is hotting up. They want to get involved in that 1, 2, 3 years in and out. So funding is readily available. And then government support, number 9. The government are supporting wherever they can. They want to encourage development because they are supposed to build 300,000 homes a year. Their jobs depend on it when they go for re-election. So the government are going to support you wherever they can as a developer. Not as a landlord, but as a developer. And finally, number 10 is time. If you can be in that position where we can take you from 50 to 100, to 100 to 150, you're going to have more money to spend. And of course, if you're able to get that 3.75 billion or whatever number you need time to spend it. And property development is not a noisy business. Buy-to-lets, not too bad. HMOs, worse. Service departments, much worse. I know you can manage them out, you can get people to organise them, but they are still noisy businesses. Money sat in the bank does not generate noise. You can do development, sell it, take the cash, put it in your bank. It doesn't bother you. It doesn't hassle you. It doesn't ring you on a Saturday morning. It doesn't break your boilers. It doesn't trash your property. It doesn't steal all your white goods. It doesn't not pay your rent. Money is quiet. It's not a noisy business, in which case we have time. And what's more important than money? Time. There's no point having money if you don't have time. Hopefully, in this episode, I'm going to leave you with a business plan. Hopefully, you've got to that point where you are now. And as I say, if you have listened to this whilst you're running, driving, re-listen to this with a piece of paper in front of you. What is it you're on now? Where do you want to be now? Where do you want to be for your pension? and how long have you got? That's your business plan. Choose the right vehicle to get there. Maybe it is property development. It's all about understanding wealth and wealth generation. If you like what we've talked about, like and subscribe as always, and I'll see you in the next episode.